Jazzy Explains History. In this episode, how did William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, get assassinated after multiple presidents were assassinated before him? This is a big story, so I'll split it into two parts. The first part, the one you're watching now, will be about how the assassination occurred. The second part will be about its effects on the presidency and how the next president, number 26 Theodore Roosevelt, affected America in the presidency. Moving on to the main part of the video, to start, we have to go back to the first assassination, and probably the most widely known, when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865 by John Wilkes Booth. You would think that the modern-day Secret Service organization would have been formed after the assassination, and it was, but it did not function the way it does today. You see, after the American Civil War concluded, there were a lot of counterfeit bills circulating. In fact, by the end of the Civil War, nearly one-third of the currency in circulation was counterfeit. This made inflation higher since people had more money to spend. To combat the inflation, the United States Treasury Department had established the Secret Service as a bureau to combat the widespread counterfeiting. This is important as there was no reliable or dedicated protection of the president until after McKinley was assassinated. The assassination happened on September 6, 1901, only 6 months into his second term. McKinley was at the Pan American Exposition, a world fair hosted in Buffalo, New York. McKinley's secretary was worried about an assassination attempt and took it off the schedule twice. However, McKinley restored it each time and was reluctant to accept protection. The assassin had lost their job in the Panic of 1893 and was a recently turned anarchist, an ideology that had a reputation for killing foreign leaders. The assassin shot McKinley twice, one which only grazed him, and the other going into the abdomen, which was never found. Ironically, there was protection for the president present. However, they were distracted by a tall, swarthy man who appeared restless and was holding a handkerchief. Because it was such a hot day, people were permitted to have their hands occupied with a handkerchief instead of the usual rule that one had to have both hands open and empty. The assassin took advantage of the rule to have had one hand in his pocket, which was assumed to be a handkerchief. He had his right hand wrapped in one, so the president reached for his left. Unfortunately for McKinley, his handkerchief covered his weapon, which he then used to shoot McKinley twice, both shots hitting the president. The assassin then attempted to shoot McKinley a third time, but was stopped by an African-Spanish man named James Parker. After Parker slammed into the assassin, a couple other men piled onto the assassin and began pummeling them with their rifle butts and their fists. McKinley ordered it stopped. Soon after, about 2 days later, Leon was then charged and found guilty of murder and died of electrocution. Some people believe McKinley could have been saved if he had a different doctor. The doctor they wanted, Roswell Park, was busy operating on a patient with lymphoma in their neck, and declared he couldn't even stop for the President of the United States. If he had survived, history would be very different. McKinley had made an apparent recovery at first, but as fate would have it, gangrene grew on his stomach walls and he later died of it. In the next video, we will see how much the next person to serve as president, Theodore Roosevelt, took a more hands-on approach to regulating business and the economy as a whole. If you'd like to see how TR handled the presidency, then subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be notified whenever that video releases. And thank you for watching.